We wanted to begin this legislative session and our work together with hearing first and foremost from student voices. And we've partnered with the Minnesota Youth Council to solicit those voices from across the state. The upside of the pandemic is the greater ease with which people from across the state can participate in the legislative process. The Minnesota Youth Council committee was established in statute in 2013 under the auspices of the Minnesota Alliance with Youth. The committee consists of 4 members from each congressional district in Minnesota and 4 members selected at large. The duties of the council is to provide advice and recommendations to the legislature and governor on issues affecting youth, and to serve as a liaison for youth around the state to the legislature and the governor. There is members of Minnesota Youth Council Committee that meets twice each year during the regular session of the legislature. They select introduced bills in the House of Representatives and the Senate for consideration for a public hearing before the Committee of Youth. There is nothing as terrifying as presenting one of your bills before that committee. They are smart, they ask tough questions, and they are relentless. It's a great group of students to have engaged in the legislative process, and Minnesota is very lucky to have that structure in place. We're going to start today with Ms. Salma Abdi from Rochester, Minnesota. Ms. Abdi, please unmute your microphone and proceed with your testimony. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Chair Dabney. Dear Chair Dabney and fellow committee members, my name is Salma Abdi and I'm a current junior at Century High School in Rochester, Minnesota. I'm also a youth representative, as previously said, for Congressional District 1 on the Minnesota Youth Council. And the MYC is made up of 4 youth members from each congressional district, 36 in total, and 4 at-large members. With the MYC, we have the opportunity to work with state agencies, aid the legislature, and serve in different capacities across the state. For example, I serve as an appointed member of the Children's Cabinet Advisory Council. Additionally, we also use our resources, knowledge, and experience to work in 4 focus areas on different subcommittees: juvenile justice, education excellence, mental health and well-being, and environmental justice, which were all identified as important things to youth in our communities. Within our positions, we heard directly from the youth in our community, and as the student body secretary of my school, I hear these issues directly from my fellow peers. And the thing we're all saying is that we are in need of more resources and aid, especially in greater Minnesota. Because as we move further away from urban centers, access to technology, resources, and testing decreases in more rural areas. Not only that, but students who don't have access to technology are not receiving a quality education and the ability to thrive. I've experienced this firsthand as a junior studying for standardized tests like the ACT and SAT, where I've spent upwards of $500 on materials. I have that privilege, but can the same be said for my fellow peers across the state? Can we wholeheartedly say that it is true and that they all have access to things ready to prepare them for college? For that moment of hesitation we all felt when I asked that question, it reinforces why allocating more money to our education system is essential, especially now where we see different learning models across the state. For example, my school district has not had secondary students online the entire year, and it has caused issues of disconnectedness, lack of concentration, and a lack of passion for learning. Parents are frustrated, students are frustrated, and so are teachers. In fact, my school district currently, there's a Facebook group going on called RPS, Prioritize Our Student, which is talking about those frustrations, which are all valid. We sit in front of our laptops for 86-minute classes where we do not receive a similar education, and students who are interested in certain subjects won't be able to pursue that interest in a class filled with blank screens. Another issue that is making distance learning especially harder for my school district is the implementation of grading for learning, which forgoes including quizzes, homework, participation, and any other miscellaneous piece from our grades and depends solely on the outcome of tests. This form of grading was meant to be more equitable, but only allows students who have the opportunity to solely focus on school to thrive. And those that do not have that privilege are fighting to survive amidst a global pandemic and a heightened awareness of racial, environmental, and political issues in our state and country, further disproportionately affecting Black and Indigenous and people of color, rural and low-income communities. That is why we cannot wait around for a 5-year plan or a quick and easy investment till the pandemic is over, because the inequities across our state is evident of deeper issues that have existed for decades. The pandemic is only enlightening people now. Additionally, this investment this year will aid in getting resources so our education gap does not further affect graduation rates of students, especially those in areas that lack resources. There is a direct thought process that comes with the thought of funding schools in an area and the perception of how dreams and aspirations will play out to those students. So in order to create a connected Minnesota, we need action now. Because as a 16-year-old, tabling issues for a couple of years will not help me, but hurt me and current students. Because that aid further on will not help us. Furthermore, in order for the future to look better and for people to come back to their hometowns after college, is to see a future outside of what they saw was available to them previously. And that there are things every single one of us would love to accomplish in our communities, but is it possible? Do we see it being implemented? Is there that possibility? See, representatives, I understand that you guys are aware of the belief in changing our state for the better. And as a council, we make sure all youth voices and experiences are highlighted and empowered to lead the change. So I urge you guys all to closely consider the impact of making sure no child is left behind, and that we all have the ability to succeed with the help of our communities, because the reception of a quality education in our state will aid in growth and help future generations in ending cycles of poverty and aiding in the reinvestment of communities. Thank you all for your time and your commitment to hearing youth from this time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Thank you, Ms. Abdi.
Thank you, Chair Dabney, and thank you, Representative. So I would say there's a lot of things that really lead you, and that's like I really feel like the key of like being a part of MYC, being in high school, like you need to find your niche. What is that thing that pushes you forward? What is that thing that motivates you? What is that thing? What is your goal? And what is your support? What do you love? And I really think like love, like it sounds weird and like cliche, but love and community, building your community, because like community is such an important thing. The people you rely on, the people you help, the people you want to fight for. And what can you change? You know, I have what I call 4 younger siblings, and every time I talk to them, I'm really happy because I can see that they will make change. I can see that they're passionate, and I want them to live in a world where it's just an equitable world where they can thrive and feel happy and grow up not worrying about the same things previous generations have had, the same things I did. So it's always, what can you do to change it? What initiative or what things can you do to make that difference? It, you know, like the whole, can you change the world? It's not about changing the world. It's about changing the people and the things closest to you. It's about making a difference where you live, where your community is, where the people you love live. And having that lead you, having that motivate you, having that be your thing. You know, both my parents are immigrants, and they immigrated here decades ago, but would call it hearing their stories and why they immigrated and like the difference in change, how things have gone, why they did it, is what leads me, because it's about what difference can you make that will affect people in a positive manner. It doesn't have to be the whole world. So I don't know, like making change, love, and community. Those are like the 3 simple things I would describe it as. Thank you, Chair Davney. I would say something very clear is the disconnect between students and teachers. Um, I'll recall with the new school year, you get new teachers. With the new semester, you get new teachers and new people in your class. It might be a few people that you have together, but it's always a shuffling of people, of routine, of things. And one thing is students don't have the opportunity to know their teacher at a better level, and call teachers don't have that ability either. What works for certain students, what doesn't, different personalities, how they work out in class, especially with cameras being optional. It's what is that student doing? I know people that are just sleeping. There is sleeping during the class. Their camera isn't on and they're not being able to work. Um, it's all for so I would say like kind of being connected. So one thing our student government did was go into freshman classes because the current freshman class hasn't been in person in my school district specifically, so they don't really know their teachers. And something that was very apparent was I don't I don't know how to do it because it's hard to learn. It's hard to do these things when there's no incentive, especially with grading for learning. There is no incentive to do work. And as you slowly not do that homework for that assignment, you get a test on that of that work. Do you understand it? No. So you fall behind and you slowly fall behind. And a conversation I had with one of my teachers is as soon as you fall behind on 2 weeks worth of work, it's significantly more difficult to be even past that class or work harder because you're like, well, it's over. It's not that you're not going to get forward, and it's harder to learn because materials in so many classes, math, English, they go on top of each other. It's slowly a progression of work. So having, as I previously, like community, being able to help each other, having study groups, recall being able to reach out to your teachers, because as I previously said, personality is so important. Like I'm very outgoing and I would gladly email any teacher and ask them for more help because I understand like that's what so many of them are willing to do that. But it could be the same said for the quiet student who you haven't heard of in an entire semester who's struggling. Um, it's so difficult, and also that lack of accountability, especially with being online. If cameras off and there are no incentives, it's very much students are falling behind. And how can we help them? Is it, I know going in person is essentially the goal, but also being online, how can we help them now, currently? With semesters ending now, semesters that previously ended, it's so difficult. I've pulled more all-nighters this year than I have ever in my life. Um, Going to sleep at 11 a.m. is not the goal we're going for. And so it's working hard and understanding and learning and getting these resources and tutoring services and having those funded, or having math resource rooms where you can go to like online Zoom calls and get help from student, we call teachers. That's what we have at my school. We call it science, we call having that resources. So that's really important, just feeling connected and being able to talk to your teachers, not being able to just be in their Zoom class.